4 games to go. What is my final Premier League table predictions? Before we get into this video, guys, do make sure, of course, to drop a like. We'll go for 250 likes on this one. Your support will be appreciated, even if you don't like where I've predicted your team to finish. It is just a bit of fun. Do make sure, of course, to subscribe as well if you haven't already for more Premier League content like this. And like I say, before I get into it, it's just a bit of fun. There's a few games to go. There's still quite a lot to play for. Do let me know your predictions down below. You might not agree with my predictions, but that's fair enough. I want to see your predictions down in the comments, and we'll see who's right at the end of the season. There's so much to play for. The Premier League title race is still going on, the battle for Europe, and of course that mental Premier League relegation battle. Let's get straight into it, starting at the top and working our way down. So then it'll probably come as no surprise that I've gone for Manchester City to win the title race. We've got to a point now where I think most people, even Arsenal fans, are expecting Manchester City to get it wrapped up. Manchester City have had a fantastic season. They're ending the season incredibly well. Their form is fantastic, and their next 4 games include West Ham United and Leeds United at home, Everton and Chelsea as well. All 4 of those I expect Manchester City to win, and I really can't see Arsenal overtaking them in the final weeks. Manchester City, as I say, they've still got the treble to play for. They're just a joke. Kevin De Bruyne, Erling Haaland, they've been setting records this season. This Manchester City team is too good. They're going to win the league. That means obviously in second place I've gone for Arsenal. Arsenal's still a fantastic season. They've done so well, and to keep this title race going all the way until May is incredible. I think realistically the title did get away from them in April. Too many points dropped, a few too many draws as well. They've still had a fantastic season, and to finish second is some achievement. The fact that they've pushed Manchester City all this way when we were expecting Arsenal to be a team battling for 4th or 5th in the league this season is fantastic. Mikel Arteta has done a fantastic job. Can they keep progressing into next season and maybe have another title charge? Once again, no surprises. In 3rd and 4th, I've gone for Newcastle United and Manchester United. These two do look pretty comfortable in the positions they are at the moment. The only thing that could change is these two could swap places, but as for who's going to get into the top 4, I think these two are going to cement their places. Both Newcastle and Manchester United have already got so many points on the board, and we've got to talk about Newcastle first. What a fantastic season, and what a terrific job Eddie Howe is doing. Let's not forget, Newcastle United were battling to stay in the Premier League when the new owners came in around 18 months ago. The turnaround has been quite sensational, and they haven't exactly brought in the best players in the world like some people thought they would do. They haven't brought in Haaland, they haven't brought in Kylian Mbappe or Neymar. The recruitment has been really sensible and the growth has been steady. Bruno Guimaraes has been fantastic, Callum Wilson's brilliant, Joe Linton, Jacob Murphy, the keeper, Nick Pope, Kieran Trippier. You could compliment all of these players because Newcastle United have come together as such a good team this season, and they've only lost 4 games. That is an absolute joke. I'm excited to see what Newcastle United can do in the Champions League next year, because they are definitely finishing in the top 4. As I say, they're going to be joined by Manchester United. I put Manchester United to finish 4th. It's a good season from Manchester United's recent standards. I feel like Ten Hag's had a pretty good season on the whole. Got off to a bit of a shaky start, and there has been the odd strange result here and there, but it's still possible that they could finish 3rd in the league. They've won the Carabao Cup, and they could still win the FA Cup, which would be absolutely fantastic against Manchester City. We shall wait and see. Even if they don't finish 3rd, or even if they don't win the FA Cup, I still think they're going to finish 4th as a minimum, and they have won the Carabao Cup. So like I say, it's a good season for Manchester United in terms of slowly getting back to where they want to be. In 5th place, I've gone for Liverpool. Now, Liverpool I do think will finish the highest out of all the teams outside the top 4. I feel like if there was another 10 games to go this season, they might be able to battle for that top 4, because their form's been a bit better recently. They're scoring goals. They look a little bit better than what they were earlier in the season, but they've probably just left it a little bit too late. So I do think Liverpool will miss out on Champions League football this year, but looking at their last 5 fixtures, it wouldn't surprise me if they were to win all 5 of them. I expect 4 wins as a minimum, and if Liverpool can finish this season with a bit of a flurry, it might keep some positivity going into the summer and going into next season, where Liverpool will need to rebuild again. I'm going for Liverpool to finish 5th. In 6th place, I've gone for Brighton. Brighton have been a breath of fresh air this season. It would be fantastic to see them get into the Champions League, but I do think they're definitely going to get Europa League at a minimum. I've gone for Brighton to finish in 6th place. Their recent form hasn't been great, but then they did pull out a fantastic 6-0 win against Wolves in their most recent game. Brighton have got the most games left out of all the teams in the Premier League. They've got 7 games to play out in the space of 24 days, which means it could be a bit chaotic here for Brighton. I think it will make it tricky to have a really consistent run of form. I think they might still drop a few points here and there with so many games in the space of such a short amount of time. But I think Brighton will finish the season in the top 6. I do expect them to pick up some more points and get in there. Let's not forget, this has been a very impressive season from Brighton to get to the FA Cup semi-final, to finish in the top 7. I've gone for 6, and with the fact that they changed their manager earlier in the season when Graham Potter was doing such a good job, De Zerbi has got to come in for a lot of credit. Up next then, 7th and 8th, I've gone for Aston Villa to wrap up European football. I think this is probably going to be the battle for 7th place. They do play each other in a couple games time at Villa Park, and based on the form at the moment, I expect Aston Villa to win that game. It wouldn't surprise me if Villa were to finish in the top 6. I just think with Brighton and Hove Albion's games in hand, they might just be able to get ahead of Aston Villa in the final run in here. But for Aston Villa to finish 7th is incredible. Let's not forget earlier in the season how poor things were with Steven Gerrard. Unai Emery's come in, and their form recently has been a joke. Only 1 defeat in their last 11 games. I think Aston Villa could still finish with a bit of a flurry here, and if they can finish ahead of Spurs and nick 7th place ahead of them, that would be some season. Aston Villa fans, share your thoughts down below. I think you're going to finish in 7th place. 8th place, I've gone for Tottenham Hotspur. Their form is just not great at the moment. 1 win in 7, and they are conceding goals for fun. They've got some interesting fixtures coming up here, do Tottenham Hotspur, but I just feel like Aston Villa are showing more consistent levels, and Brighton with their games in hand, meaning that we might get Tottenham Hotspur fall down as far as 8th. It's going to be an absolutely massive summer here for Tottenham Hotspur. No matter what happens in these final couple games, I'll put this season down as a massive disappointment for Tottenham Hotspur. Maybe they need a big summer and a big refresh and a big change for them to do better next season. Up next then in 9th and 10th, wrapping up the top half, I have the West London boys. Let's start with Brentford. I think Brentford have had another fantastic season. A little bit gutted that I think they might just fall short of European football, but to finish 9th is absolutely fantastic, and Brentford just continue to build and build steadily year on year, and maybe next year could be the year that they get European football. It is a tricky finish here for Brentford with their last 4 games, including Liverpool, Tottenham Hotspur and Manchester City, but Brentford have shown that they can take points off the top 6 this season, so it wouldn't entirely surprise me if Brentford were to still win 3 of their final 4 here, and maybe, just maybe, they still have a chance of European football, but I'm going to put them down as 9th. 10th place, I've gone for Fulham. Fulham, fantastic season. Bit of a strange ending. I feel like they're the team at the moment with the least to play for because they're right in the middle. No chance they're going down. I don't think they're going to get European football, so it's going to be interesting to see how Fulham end this season. They don't want to be ending on a low note considering how good this season has been on a whole. Let's not forget, many people, like myself included, did expect Fulham to be relegated before a ball was kicked this season because they were a yo-yo club coming into this season. They've broken that trend, and maybe Fulham can now use this as a platform to push on and continue to impress in the Premier League going into next season. It's been a very good season for Fulham. Can they end with a couple more victories to keep them in the top half? Up next then, in 11th and 12th, it's Crystal Palace and AFC Bournemouth. Only 5 games ago, we were talking about these two as teams that were in the Premier League relegation battle, and now they could be pushing all the way up to a top half finish. It's incredible. Let's start with Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace have been fantastic since Roy Hodgson's come in. It's 4 wins in their last 6 games, which is incredible considering the run of form they were in with Patrick Vieira. I do think the sacking of Vieira and the replacement of Hodgson came at an interesting time for Crystal Palace because they'd had so many difficult games, and their final 8-9 games were always going to be a bit more favourable because they were against the rest of the teams in the bottom half, and Crystal Palace have done well to win most of those games and shoot themselves away from danger. I still think Crystal Palace might pick up another 6 or 7 points in the final 4 games here. In 12th place, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, AFC Bournemouth. 4 wins in their last 5, 6 wins in their last 9, which is 2 points per game over a 9-game sample size, which is absolutely fantastic for a team that's just come up from the Championship. Do you know what? It's been such a strange season for AFC Bournemouth. It feels like almost everything that could have happened has happened. The managerial change, a 9-0 defeat, a good run of form, a bad run of form, a fantastic run of form at the end of the season, and honestly, credit goes to Gary O'Neill, probably the most underrated manager in the Premier League this season. The job he's done has been fantastic. AFC Bournemouth, another team that so many people, including myself, expected to go back down, and I'm happy to be wrong on this occasion. AFC Bournemouth look like they're staying up quite comfortably now. A 4-1 win over Leeds United in their most recent game, and AFC Bournemouth could finish as high up as 10th place this season, which would be ridiculous. I've got them to finish 12th. I do think they're going to climb ahead of Chelsea in these final couple games. Next then, 13th and 14th place, Wolves and Chelsea. Let's start with Wolves. Wolves had won 3 of their last 4 games before a 6-0 defeat to Brighton. I wonder if you can put that down to Wolves doing most of the hard work and knowing that they're over the line. At this moment in time, it's technically, not mathematically impossible that Wolves could still be relegated, but realistically, do we think teams down there are going to pick up 7 points in the final 4 games? No. And I do think Wolves will still pick up a few more points in the final couple games. I do think Wolves will just finish ahead of Chelsea, and I think there might be a good reaction win in the next game or two after that 6-0 defeat to Brighton, which was horrendous. I think Wolves' manager has to come in for a lot of credit. The players have done a good job in the recent weeks. Wolves were in danger a few weeks ago. Now things are looking better, and they're looking like they're playing Premier League football again next season. Chelsea in 14th place. Oh my God, this season has been such a write-off in every direction. It's been an absolute car crash of a season for Chelsea, and I do think they will finish 14th. Chelsea have been dropping like a stone in the recent months, and Frank Lampard has not been able to turn it around. Just like with Tottenham Hotspur, Chelsea need some big changes in the summer going into next season. Looking at their final few games, AFC Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest, they might be lucky to get 1 win out of those 2 games. Man City and Man United away before Newcastle at home. I think 1 win out of those 5 would be a good ending for Chelsea, considering the form that they are in. So then on to the bottom 6. Let's go through it one team at a time now. West Ham United, I do think, will finish in 15th place. They're a couple points behind 14th place Wolves, but they are a few points ahead of the teams in 16th and 17th. I think West Ham United are in a bit of a bubble at the moment, if you pardon the pun. I just don't think they're going to move up or down the table in these final couple games. It's not technically impossible that they could still be relegated this season. They've got Manchester City, Manchester United and Brentford as their next 3 games, but they are 4 points clear with 4 games to go. I think West Ham have just got enough in the bank, and I can see them maybe picking up another 4 points in the final 5 games. You've got to say it's been a really strange season for West Ham United this year. Really poor at times in the Premier League, but so good at times in the Europa Conference League. Up next then in 16th place, I have gone for Leicester City. I do think Leicester City are just going to get over the line. I've got to say, this bottom 5 is the hardest part of this predictions video because there's barely anything separating these teams. As far as new manager changes go, I think Leicester City bringing in Dean Smith is probably one of the best appointments out of any of these teams in the bottom 5 that have had this season. Leicester City have only lost 1 of their last 4 games, and that was away to Manchester City. They've still got difficult games coming, but with it being such slow snail racing down there, I think only 5 points will be enough for Leicester City. Can they win 1 and draw 2? I think it's possible. They've got 2 games, in my opinion, that they have to target: Fulham away and West Ham United at home on the final day. In between those 2 games, they take on Liverpool and Newcastle. Can I see them getting any wins out of those 2? Not really. I think they might be able to get a draw out of those 2 games at best. So Leicester City, can they get the 5 points required from these 4 games in total? I think they might be able to. I think Leicester City might just be able to stay up. I'm not saying it with a lot of confidence, but I think they've just got enough quality, and with a little bit of a new manager bounce, I think Leicester City are actually just about going to stay up. In 17th place, joining Leicester City by just surviving this season, I've gone for an East Midlands double, and I've gone for Nottingham Forest to get over the line this year. With 4 games to go, there's really not a lot separating them from Leeds United and Everton at this moment in time. But the one thing that I do think they have in their favour is slightly, and I mean only slightly, easier fixtures. Southampton at home has to be a win for Nottingham Forest, and we know that Nottingham Forest at the City Ground have been a very solid team this season. They've just beaten Brighton in their most recent home game. They have to win this one because we know that Nottingham Forest are unreliable on the road. After that, it's Chelsea away, which I could see Forest possibly getting a draw from, especially if they've just won the Southampton game and they're on a bit of a high. After that, it's Arsenal at home, and who knows what Arsenal will be playing for on that one. It might be a bit too much for Forest to get something from that game. They could be on 34 points then going into that final day game away at Crystal Palace, and if that is the case, I think they only need to get a draw at Crystal Palace to get themselves over the line. As I've said, 35 to survive, and looking at those fixtures, I do think Nottingham Forest are just about going to do it. I've backed Nottingham Forest to stay up all season, and now in the final 3 weeks here, we're going to find out if that's going to come true. So then, this is my bottom 3: Everton, Leeds United and Southampton. Let's start with Everton, who I did think had a good chance of staying up when Sean Dyche first came in, and they seemed to have that little bit of a bounce. But coming into this, their form isn't great. They did show an encouraging performance at Leicester City with that 2-2 draw, and it was vital for Everton not to lose that, which I think has kept Everton in contention. But looking at those fixtures, I don't fancy them to win away at Brighton. I don't think they're going to win at home to Manchester City, which leaves Everton probably needing 2 wins from their final 2 games. albeit they're against Wolves and Bournemouth, who I don't think will have a lot to play for, but it's quite a bit to ask. 2 wins from their final 2. Can Sean Dyche do it and save Everton in the final couple of weeks? It's going to be close, but I think Everton might fall short by about a point or 2. If they can get level on points with Forest, they've got a better goal difference than them and might be able to swap places with them. 19th place, Leeds United. Their form really does stink at this moment in time, and it's the way that they're losing games as well, conceding goals for fun. Albeit at this moment in time, they have just brought in Sam Allardyce, and that does change things a little bit. Can he keep them up? I feel like they've got a better chance with Sam Allardyce than they did with Javi Gracia, who couldn't seem to get any results out of Leeds United in the last couple of weeks. I think it's really close and still definitely possible here for Leeds United. Their next game is away at Manchester City, where I don't fancy them to get a single point, which leaves them with 3 games to get the 5 points required to get to 35 to survive. I hate to say it, Leeds United fans, but I do think your best hopes of staying up is relying on Nottingham Forest and Everton to keep messing up. That's the only way I think Leeds United can get out of this. I can maybe see one more win here for Leeds United. I do actually fancy them to win at home to Spurs on the final day, but is 33 or 34 points going to be enough? As I say, I think Leeds United might need to rely on other results for them to get out of it. And so then coming on to the final team, I've gone for Southampton. Not much of a surprise here, and I'm sorry to say it, Southampton fans, I do think you're going down to the Championship. Looking at the table, Southampton probably need a minimum of 10 points from their final 4 games, and even that might not be enough, and they haven't even picked up 10 points from their last 15 games. Like I said in yesterday's video, Southampton need to go away to Nottingham Forest and take 3 points from the City ground, and then win at home to Fulham to be taken serious by anyone going into those final 2 games. Southampton fans, I think the writing is on the wall. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. So then guys, that wraps up my final Premier League table predictions. I will not be predicting the Premier League table until the summer now for next season. I think it's going to be really close in that relegation battle. I do think most people do fancy Man City to win the title at this moment in time. And as for the battle for the European places, well, that could be interesting. Do let me know your thoughts down below. As I say, you might agree, you might disagree with my predictions, but do share your predictions down below either way. Do make sure to drop a like on this one, and do make sure to subscribe for more Premier League content. We're trying to hit 30,000 subscribers by the end of May, so please do subscribe. I will see you all in tomorrow's video. Peace out.